Welcome to Faithfully Committed Podcast. I am so happy you are able to join. But let's start off with some introductions from the three panels. When I call your name, you can give us a little bit about yourself. We're going to start with Dr. Taylor.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Melinda Tyler. I know everyone says Taylor, Tyler. It's okay. About myself, I am been in education for about 25 years. I am a mom, a wife, a daughter. I am a child of God. I currently work in Arlington, Virginia as a data coach, which I work with teachers and school leaders on utilizing data to inform instruction, not just standardized data, but we also look at a term that we call street data. I've taught in Arlington, Virginia, and prior to that, I was the school principal for about 15 years. And then in New Jersey, I worked on the chief academic officer team as one of her advisors for teacher evaluation and student effectiveness. I am happy to be here and share my knowledge on education and my passion for working with children and school leaders.
We're happy to have you.
Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Jacobs. I won't mess up your name.
All right, good evening. I'm Dr. Jacobs, and I have been in the school system for about 21 years. And prior to being a school counselor, I was a teacher. And I look forward to sharing my craft and letting everybody know how I impact students in the school system. And thank you for this opportunity.
Oh, you're more than welcome. Thank you. What is Marilyn's last name?
Smith.
There it is. Miss Smith, are you on? Okay, she's not on yet. The purpose of this podcast is to bring awareness to our education system and prayerfully to be able to help somebody along or at least to guide them in the direction that they need to go. So I do have some questions, and the first one is going to be directed to Dr. Jacobs. Can you share some insights into the role of a school counselor and how it has evolved over the years?
All right. Yes. So school counseling has evolved over the years from vocational guidance counselor in the 1900s. That's what it used to be. And counselors used to actually be administrators and teachers. And then later on in the 1920s, it began to change to a clinical approach. And then that's when school counseling actually emerged. And in the 1930s, they actually changed their name from guidance counselors to professional school counselors. So we are now called professional school counselors. And in the 21st century, the American School Counseling Association created a model that we follow. So nationally, all school counselors follow a model, and it's based on data of things that they feel that are important to create closing the achievement gap. And it's based on developmental focus. And so that's a model that all counselors follow. It's a comprehensive school counseling program. And that's what our program is based on now as school counselors. So school counseling has come a long way.
Yes, it has. It really has. Okay, so what are some of the common challenges that students face today, and how can a school counselor help them navigate through this process?
Oh, there are many challenges. One big challenge is bullying. A lot of students have challenges with students picking on them, with bullying. And as school counselors, we are involved in that. They can report it to us anonymously. And then we do an investigation and determine what really happened. Is it really bullying? Is it not bullying? And a lot of times we go in the classrooms, we do lessons with the kids and the parents to let them know exactly what bullying is all about and what are the steps that we take when a student is bullied. We also have challenges with drugs. It's more in the high school. I'm a middle school counselor, but we do have lots of challenges with drugs. We do have drugs in middle school also, and some in elementary, but it's mostly in high school. And so we do have like drug awareness programs in the county that we can send students to. We can give them referrals for help with that. And also we have people that they're just pressured by their peers. And some of them are pressured so much with their peers and at home that they actually are suicidal. So we do have lots of students that I would say monthly, I may have a couple students that are suicidal and really want to end their life because they just can't take no more. So we also work with students with that, and we give them referrals to, sometimes some of them do have to go to a mental hospital, and we just work with them daily to check in with them to make sure they're doing okay. Also, some other challenges are a lot of students have unstable home lives. Like they're happy to be at school because so much is going on at home. And we do have students, families that are homeless. And so they're living in shelters, and we do provide assistance with that. We make sure they have transportation to get to school. We also provide them with their needs, like if they need some clothing, with school supplies. So the students are faced with a lot of challenges, but those are some of the challenges that I have encountered in middle school.
That's a lot. But did you also say a little bit of that is being done in elementary?
Yeah. Yes.
I can speak on the elementary, Dr. Jacobs. When you said drugs, believe it or not, we all have Narcan kits. And even on the elementary school level, because of the increased overdoses in the school system, the opioid crisis. And so when I was asked to get Narcan training on the elementary level, I said, well, why would we need that on the elementary level? And when we had our training, the nurse shared with us that maybe children may get it from someone at home, or because they have older siblings, and so drugs are prevalent. And now you have these edibles that look like actual candy. You have, what do you call it, bakeable edibles? I don't know the terminology. And so children are faced with so much, like Dr. Jacobs said, that unstable home life and things of that nature, that is just, it's just unbelievable at what the youth is dealing with on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot to take in.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness. So what do you do when summer comes, when they out for the summer break? How does the people that in the shelter and the students continue to get help? Dr.
Well, yeah. Oh, Dr.
You can go
It's
ahead,
fine.
Dr. Tyler.
Well, I'm sure Dr. Jacobs would agree that there are staff members who are available during the summer with the crisis hotline for students, and it is advertised for students. Since COVID, schools have developed mental health departments, and they have strengthened their departments to let parents know what resources are available to parents, whether it's a phone call, whether it's a center that they can stop by, whether it's a family center that they can stop by and get support. Some of the local libraries have support. So it's a ton of mental health resources available to families during the summer months. And that is a critical time because students are away from routines. They're away from adult conversation. They're away from lunch and meals on a regular basis. And so that is when we are concerned about our students. Some have the opportunity to go to camps, and some have the opportunity to travel, while others are home alone without supervision, or home dealing with whatever's happening in their homes. And the support really isn't isn't there for them in the home. So I know Dr. Jacobs probably add to what staff are available during the summer. There's summer school opportunities as well, where students have the opportunity to attend summer school. And a big push in some of the summer school programs is there a social emotional learning aspect to it as well. It's not just come and try to fill in your academic learning gaps. There is social emotional learning support during the summer.
But that's good to know. That's very, very beneficial. Okay, Dr. Jacob, can you provide tips for parents or guardians how to effectively communicate with school counselor to support their children's academic and emotional well-being?
Yes, we are available through email or by phone. So I have pretty much trained my parents and my students to email me. So a lot of times when students are faced with problems, because a lot of times they don't want their peers to see them come into my office. So I say, just email me and then I'll call you down if we need to talk. So a lot of times parents are emailing me all the time and calling. So we are available through email and by phone.
Okay, I have another question for you. What strategies do you employ to help students with college and career planning?
So I do work in a middle school, and I actually help them with transition into high school. So
Okay.
actually, I'm having a high school night next week where I provide them with different opportunities at different high schools. They don't have to go to their boundary school. We have all these specialty programs that they could apply for. So, and then I talk to them about, so at my high school night, I'll tell them about graduation requirements. So I start preparing them for when they're getting ready to transition from out of high school to college. Then I do have a college program that I work with the kids. It's called Naviance. So they go on that program. I go in the classroom and work with them, and they set career goals. And then we also talk about how they're going to achieve that goal. And also it had on this program, Naviance, they can also do college searches. So a lot of time we go on there, we look at colleges, we look at the requirements so they can see how their academics and what they do now is going to impact them later. And also we have career day. So we plan a career day where people from the community come in and talk to them about different careers. And also while they're talking about their careers, they let them know, what do you need to do in college to have this career, or what you need to do in school now. So we do kind of start talking about that in middle school.
That is good. The next question is for Dr. Tyler. Before switching to a teacher, why did you decide to become a principal?
So when I read that question, I had to think really deep about that. My answer was, I didn't choose becoming a principal. That role chose me. And working in school leadership is a calling. And it is not glamorous by any means. It is a calling because you are called to serve a community, not just a school. You are called to serve teachers, families, children, community members. And every school that I led, I drove before I accepted the position, and I sat in the parking lot and I said, God, is this where you want me to serve? And if it is, please camp your angels around the school. Send your angels here to help really build this community the way it needs to be strengthened. And so it did not choose me. I chose teaching. I did choose that, but I did not choose becoming a principal. It just kind of unfolded in the school that I was working in New Jersey. I went into a lead teacher position, and the principal retired. And so it was left on my shoulders to run the school. At that time, it was a K-12 school. And so it just fell in my lap. It was a calling. As a child, I did not say I want to grow up and be a principal. I wanted to actually be a teacher and a dancer. And so it fell in my lap, and it's a calling. And I'm sure counseling is a calling as well, because you have to be called each day to deal with the many nuances that unfold every day, especially in middle school. Middle school, take my hat off to middle school.
Yes.
And I see Jarrell on here. I also take my hat off to high school teachers, because it's a calling.
Oh, it's definitely a calling. I have another question for you. What challenges did you face in your role, and how did you address them?
So many challenges. First and foremost, I will say that the children don't have anything to do with the challenges. They are just the result of what's happening around them, and they come to school with what they can bring to you based off of what they've been supported with or without. And so the challenges as a school principal, on top of managing education, there were so many other areas in school that we had to manage: security, operations, building maintenance, you name it, anything that happened, animal control. I had a dog jump out of car one day. So on top of all those things, you have to keep your eyes on the needle of academics and student growth and progress. And so that there are so many balls to juggle, and I call it the rocks. So many rocks. At times, you're just like, which rock am I being pulled to deal with today? And the other part to it is, sometimes as an administrator, you are the middleman between the high leaders, the top leaders, and your school and your teachers, and trying to deliver messages or mandates that have been given to you in a way that works for your staff, or in a way that works for your school community. And so it's just managing so much. On top of budgeting, I was in a Title I school, so I had a budget, and I had several budgets, and so I was blessed with a great vice principal team. They were very supportive, and they were hard workers. We shared the same passion for education, but sometimes as a school leader, your passion gets used up, and you just don't have anything left to give out of your cup. And so you ask yourself every day, is this the work I've been called to do? And do I have the support around me to really move the needle the way it needs to be moved? And sometimes there are just things happening around you beyond your control, decisions that are being made beyond your control that you may not agree with as a school leader. So but at the end of the day, it was not the children. The children are not the challenge. It's the circumstances that they are presented with.
Okay, so how did your school support student well-being and mental health?
So we had school counselors. We had two, and we offered programs such as, we had a wellness center in the school where students could visit if they had needed to go visit and get support. Our counselors had different types of groups: a grief group, divorce group, any type of groups. They developed groups based on the needs. So there were assessments that were administered early on in the year to determine what the social emotional needs were, and the counselors led groups. We also adopted a program called Move This World, and Move This World was a social emotional learning program to help students self-regulate their emotions. It was a variety of resources such as breathing techniques, meditation, movement, conflict resolution, and different, we called them, they weren't emojis, I forget what they were called, but there were like 10 strategies that you could use when you were faced with conflict. We also did a book study on fostering resilient learners in a trauma environment. And so we talked about what trauma looks like in the classroom, so that our educators could be trained to work with adverse childhood experiences and the results of that. We also offered our teachers mental health support themselves, because if you are supporting students as educators, we have to have our health in place, our mental health intact. So our teachers also had resources as well to support them, in order so that they could show up and be present for our students. And so we learned about, what does a trauma-infused environment look like? How do you respond to a child who is in crisis? And it's not always disciplinary measures, because you can make that crisis even worse. So we talked about discipline with dignity, suspension. Instead of out of school suspension, we developed a program where students had reverse suspension. So they stayed in school, and I brought in community partners who were mental health experts, who worked with children during their recess time, and had a lunch bunch with them, because yes, you can take away, but when you're taken away, there's still gaps that are empty that you have to fill, and you have to get to the core. The behavior, just communicate, is communicating what's really going on. So we had to really figure out what was really going on with our students. So we had the wellness center where students could visit that. The counselors were available, like Dr. Jacobs is available through email for parent support. And then we partnered with other community partners, and we brought in different counselors, because the counselors can't do it all on their own. You know, the caseloads are heavy. And so we had to utilize the support of our community partners as well. And then also offering parenting classes and guardian classes for our parents to support them, but we couldn't call them classes. We had to do something like self-care and SIP. So we had a tea, it looked like a tea party, but we also talked about self-care for moms and self-care for your superwoman, for homes that were without moms. And so it's a wide range, because mental health support for the children we also have to have mental health support for the community and for the families.
Wow, listening to what I have heard thus far, I don't recall we having that when I was in school. A guidance counselor, that was it. Okay, so what strategies did your school employ to promote diversity, equality, and inclusions?
So our different school districts handle it differently. There was a new director put in place, and we as a staff participated in implicit bias training. And then we were able to, as school leaders, decide how we wanted to infuse that into our schools. So I implemented courageous conversations, where teachers were invited to have courageous conversations. We also had a book study on culturally responsive teaching for teachers, and so that they could learn how to create an inclusive environment in their classrooms. We also had opportunities for students to sit on advisory groups to talk to school leaders about their needs in the school, because oftentimes student voice is missing from that equation. And student voice is very important to advise school leaders, hey, what's happening? You know, what's going on the playground? What's going on in the cafeteria? How are you feeling? And so there has to be assessments to determine how people are feeling. One thing that was really big is, do my children see themselves in the school? When they walk into the school, do they see themselves? Do they feel heard? Do they feel like they belong? Is there a sense of belonging? We developed our theme. Every year I had a theme. So my last year, our theme was Nest, Welcome to the Nest, where we are nurturing, empathetic, supportive, and tolerant. So, you know, you have to be tolerant of all backgrounds and that, you know, and all where people come from, and accept them where they are and meet them where they are. And so it was a wide range of initiatives that were in place. My school was one of 14 schools selected to be on the task force for academic equity and excellence for Black boys in the state of Maryland. And with that program, it was focusing on Black and brown boys based on the data, the dropout rates, the graduation rates, the ACE scores. And we brought in different professionals to train our teachers on culturally responsive teaching. But we also had mentors for our students, mentors who looked like them. And we had programs in place to support our students as well. And so they had a sense of belonging, because we looked at our groups and which groups was suffering the most. And we had to really support them with different programs and, you know, allocate resources for those students. And then the other thing I will say is, every morning I started off the day, we had an affirmation. So each student was given a handheld mirror, and our other thing was SOAR. So we were Cardinals and we soared. So they had a mirror that they held up to themselves. S, I see myself as successful. O, I'm open to opportunity. A, I'm amazing. And R, I'm resilient. So there was a self-affirmation that they had to say every day that we started our day off with. And so it is those types of things that you make everybody feel valued and that they see themselves in your school community.
Love that.
I know all them things are great, Dr. Tyler, but I
Thank
think
you.
all the counties were doing the same thing because of all the things that were happening in the world. So we also did the implicit bias training and having the courageous conversations. We were doing book studies. So we were doing the same things in our county. And with the social emotional learning, we have a mental health therapist in every school now. So we can refer students to them and they can go see the mental health therapist. We also have a program called Hazel Health, where they can do it on the iPad. So they can go into a room by themselves and talk to a doctor from Hazel Health on the iPad. They can do it at school or at home. So we also have some things put in place for social emotional learning. And I'm actually starting a class this week on social emotional learning.
That's
So
great.
we all are working towards that.
Okay, for you, Dr. Tyler, Jaria, and Amber, I have it's one question, but I'm sure I'm going to get different views. What did I wanted to ask? Oh, could you share your thoughts on standardized testing and how it impacts education? I really never did like standardized testing. So, Dr. Jacobs, you can start first.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't think yeah, you're right. No one likes standardized testing. It's funny that you asked that question because I am the alternate testing coordinator at my school. So I'm giving the test. So yes, it's very tedious because we start testing like the first week of school.
Wow.
Yes, starting to see what they know, like a reading assessment to see what their level is. So we are testing, like I'm actually working on the PSAT now because I'm in middle school and I'm getting ready to test my 8th graders for the PSAT. So I'm testing all the time. So no, we do not like it because it does take away from instruction, but some of the testing we do need to collect data to see if the kids are learning what they need to learn to be successful.
Yeah, you do need your data for sure. Dr. Tyler.
I would say, I don't want to use the term evil, but it's a necessary evil. School leaders, federal school leaders and education, those at the top need measures to determine how well schools are performing, to hold school leaders accountable for growth. And unfortunately, it is a standardized test that we know all students aren't great test takers. You know, depending upon how they're feeling that day, they're not going to give you the best results. But at the end of the day, it is something that we have to do. And like Dr. Jacobs, she's the test coordinator. I share an office with the test coordinator. So we have been assessing since school opened. A window just closed, but another window is about to open. But as the data coach, it really helps us to work with teachers to really make sure students are getting what they need. We talk about equity, right? Everybody cannot get the same. So we need to figure out what is it that our students need academically so that teachers can plan and support students from this data. But it's just one measure. It is one measure. We have, and I call that mapping data. It kind of helps, like Dr. Jacobs said, reading levels. What reading levels are students performing on math?
Oh, my name though.
You know, and they're based on the
I'm logged out.
So Common Core
Yeah,
state standards have been adopted. There are different standards, states who have not adopted the standards, but the assessments are based on those standards, and it really gives departments of education the ability to have a lens of what's happening in the school. But I often say, I think someone needs to mute.
Yes, could everyone mute their phones, please?
Yeah, I often say that it's a one measure, but Dr. Jacobs and I know you could walk through a school and know that these students are learning, but it may not match the results on the standardized test because depending upon how they were feeling that day or how that question was posed or whatever was happening around them, you may not yield the best testing results, but it's a necessary evil that we as school educators, we just have to do it.
So how is it handled if a student doesn't do well at all on standardized testing, but are brilliant and probably on the honor roll? But like you said before, they're just not good test takers. How do you all score them? Anyone can answer that question.
Well, I think the schools have to develop a culture of assessment. Like, what is your culture around assessments? And let students and teachers and parents know a child's success is not tied to an assessment. You know, I do believe there were times where schools used that to determine if students were going to go to the next grade, but that is no longer the case. And so it's how school leaders shape the culture around the assessment and how assessments are viewed and how you shape, you know, when we begin assessments, we tell our students, this is just one way for us to see what you need from us and how we need to help you grow. It is not, you know, some students get so nervous. I have some students who are absent on test day. They just don't want to take the test, but it's the culture that you create. And so every school is different, but I know the counselors play a role. If there's test anxiety, how are we supporting students with test anxiety? Some schools have pep rallies around the test. You know, so there's different ways that you can motivate students. But then when students receive their test results, I remember working with eighth graders in New Jersey, and their test results determined whether they went to the next grade or not. And we had to sit down and give them their test results. I had one student fall out the chair because she was crying. She didn't think she was going to pass. And, you know, imagine me as a school leader having to tell students whether they passed or whether they did not pass. So I'm so happy they moved away from the measure as a promotion measure. But you are absolutely right. You can have a student who did poorly on the state assessment, but their report card does not match that. So that's why I say that is just one measure, and that we have to teach our families and our students that. And there's some parents who pressure their students to do well on the state test. You know, and that's when you have your parent sessions, your one-on-one meetings, your parent counseling, and so forth. Because now there are some colleges who don't even take the SAT, right? And so there's more to life than a standardized test. You have to be well-rounded. There's more than just sitting down with, now it's computerized, but it's more than just answering a multiple choice question and getting it right. What else are you involved in? You know, what other curricular activities are you involved in? And how are you building your portfolio as a student?
And so, Jaria and Amber, could you share your thoughts on the standardized testing and its impact on education? Jaria?
Hello, I'm sorry, guys. I'm still experiencing some technical difficulties. I got like 3 computers, a phone, or so hopefully it doesn't go out. I currently am in a position where I am with the testing coordination at our school. We do it 3 times a year. At times I do find that it's very excessive. Because it's not just the reading inventory, it's the math, it's the social studies, I mean, you name it. At the beginning of we have to get the data at the beginning of the year, the middle of the year, as well as the end of the year. Though we may have kids that, as you would say, brilliant, who are on a roll, and maybe they're just not tester, we need to have some type of data point of where they actually are testing, not just against their peers, but nationwide. So you have to have that data point to know exactly where they're falling in that. And a lot of times you see big gaps in their education and in their learning, and it's very scary when you have to have a conversation with the parents, especially with me working at a high school, to tell, you know, a parent whose child is about to be graduating that your child is reading on a 2nd grade level. And
the child graduating. Whole different topic.
Again, we have a lot of students, like you said, who are very, what is the word I want to say? The students, they do well, but they have learned how to master getting, whether they're copying off of someone's paper, or they fake it until they make it, basically. So they even know that themselves, but they have learned a certain way to adjust. Whatever scaffolded material you give to them, whatever you're giving to them, children learn to adjust. They're sponges. They know how to play the game, how to get around things. And it's not until you really sit down one-on-one with that child and you see, you're like, oh my goodness. It can be it's very, I feel like, you know, with the No Child Left Behind, even though they said that they did away with that some time ago, we're still reeling from the after effects of that. It definitely is showing up in the schools. And I think we touched on it a little bit before. Amber was saying it's not the teachers not passing. We don't want to pass kids who are not on their grade level. Our hands are tied. We are being forced to pass students. even though we know that they're not ready. We are being forced. Now, technically, they'll say, oh, no, but we see it time and time again. I think we touched on it before the last time. We are no longer, we can't give zeros out. We have to give out 50s. Whether they do the work or not, they get a 50. You show up and you just breathing. You can come into class 5 minutes before the bell rings and you have attendance for that day. Kids have literally come in right before the bell rang and said they were there. You got to count them for attendance. So there has been a lot. I feel personally, it's like child abuse to me. You do what you can with what you got. I just finished up a literacy night with my parents, and we will continue. I mean, there's no other option. Every school is different, but once you get that data material, like I tell some of the administrators or testing coordinators or whoever, what do we do with that material? Do we just keep testing the kids and be like, oh, better luck next time, hope you do better next time? But what are you actually putting into play? Now that we know that we have a certain amount of students that are on a second grade level, third grade level, fourth grade level, where are those supports? And the school day is very long,
Yes, it
At
is.
some point in one of those class periods, kids that we know for certain who are testing low need to be brought out so that they can get that extra support. And, people will find excuses and stuff like that, but there is no excuse. The child does not really understand. They're faking it till they make it. They somewhat, they get to another student, they copy off of their paper, they're using ChatGPT, they're doing whatever they need to kind of fake their way through. But time and time again, when you're looking at the test scores and it's saying low achievement, low achievement, low achievement, I mean, one after another. I did not only the reading inventory, but also the math, which is the math assessment. And my heart just kept, it just pained me. I'm just searching, like, do I have just an average? Do I have a high achievement? And when you're seeing that your child is performing 3%, 1% better than their peers, it's like the achievement level is it's so over the place. But my suggestion again, this is not just a one-sided thing. The teachers cannot do it all by themselves. Parents have to be accountable. You cannot just send your child and be hands off in their education. If you're getting, if you're getting phone calls or you're getting teachers calling you, that is their attempt to tell you something is wrong. I am here. That's what we get paid for. We know if you knew everything, you wouldn't have to go to school. So that's what we're here for. They need to better utilize us. But there has to be a conversation also with parent engagement. I feel like with this younger generation, they're younger parents. They may not have had the best experience in school themselves, so they're intimidated. They're intimidated to come into the school. So we have to start building that foundation and those relationships. We bought pizza. We had a literacy night right before the game because we know that you're going to come out for a game. So I'm going to meet you where you are. As soon as you come through the gate for the game, here we are. Hey, we got some pizza. We got something that you come and sit. Come. Let's go over these scores. What do these scores really mean? Because a lot of times we send that data home, but do they actually comprehend what they're reading? Somebody needs to break it down to them. I know we had this little scorecard saying, if your child is in the 9th grade, they're performing from this level to this level, they're not proficient or they're below average. Then it's proficient and then it's above, advanced. I said, that's not enough to show them, to say, oh, your child is your child is behind. When I showed them based on the score that their students had and where they're proficient at, and they could actually see the grade level, it then dawned on them. It's not enough to say that your child is, below level. They probably already know that already, but how below level? It hits a different when you're saying your child is at a high school level is performing reading level at a 6 or 7, someone who's 6 years old, someone who's 7 years old. They are saying that your child is reading at what a 6 or 7-year-old is reading. It hits different when they see that, and they're like, "Oh no, we can't. We got to do something. What are we going to do?" Yes, it is imperative, but we have to have those tough conversations with parents, and we need to make sure it's not. This is a partnership. We're in this together. Yeah. We're in this together, and so I think another focus needs to be on family engagement.
Thank you so much. Amber, are you on? That is very true. Amber? Okay, let's move on. Dr. Tyler, what extracurricular activities or programs available to students to enrich their education?
So there's a variety. I know there's more in the middle school level and high school level. In elementary school, we had a coding club, STEAM club, robotics, a girl etiquette club. So different things based off of student voice. We had a sporting a club, dancing, drama. So just a variety of enrichment opportunities. We also had book clubs. We also had students who wanted to accelerate in math. So we had a math club. I had a team who participated in there's a big competition in Maryland. It escapes my mind right now, but it deals with math and engineering. And they went and they had to engineer an object to meet a certain task, and they won in that competition. And they were very passionate about that. And extracurricular activities allow students to have the opportunity to succeed and to have something that they can have pride in and feel good about themselves. So that is also instrumental in the self-esteem and social emotional learning component, because sometimes if I'm not good in the classroom and I'm constantly being told that I cannot succeed here, but when I go after school, sometimes it's a motivation for them. It motivates them and encourages them to let them know, hey, you may not be good with reading, but you can go after school and join the STEAM club and engineer something and be phenomenal and be dynamite with that. And so those are very important. We have, where I am now, we have swimming for our students. There's opportunity for them to be in a gardening club, a club where they give back to their community. And where they, right now we're doing a cereal drive. So there's just different things that students can be very creative, and that's where they can have their voice and be very vocal in these types of clubs. You have student government. I know on the middle school level, we had something similar called student ambassadors, where they were somewhat like a government. And then we had a student ambassador club for new students. And when new students came, they were in charge of giving them a tour of the school and partnering with them so they felt comfortable. So there was a variety of activities.
Oh, that's excellent. So what role did technology play in the educational experience at your school?
Well, when COVID hit, everybody had to have a device. We're delivering devices to have a drive up to pick up your device. We were giving out hot spots and everything. So it really shifted us technology, because before COVID, everyone like Zoom, like we knew what Zoom was, but we didn't use it as much, or Teams or whatever. I think it was Skype or something like that. But every student has a device. Teachers are trained on how to use technology in their classroom. I know Javier can talk more about that, but our teachers use technology more than just like a whiteboard. Like you cannot go up to your smart panel or your Lumio board and just write on it. Like there's no purpose of that. But how do you use technology to really enhance your instruction, your delivery of instruction? There are a variety of programs that students engage in, such as Dreambox, Lexia. There are online libraries that they can use, online databases. There's a different curriculum type program where students can be assigned to get the support they need on their level where it's not broadcasting to everyone. So if your reading level or your math level is here, you can go on and get a program just for you on your level, and no one else has to know that. And you can complete that and submit your scores, and your teacher can see how you perform. So it really helps the teachers to differentiate instruction and provide instructional supports for students where they are. It is also helpful for parent meetings. You know, if you cannot have an in-person meeting, parents will log on to Zoom. If they're sitting in their car, they will attend a meeting, and you can really help parents that way and create another opportunity that way. So, and I know Drea talked about the MAP assessment. We also use that. MAP assessment also has a component to it where how students perform. There are instructional tools that are aligned to their levels. So that takes out the some work from the teachers. It offers supports to the teachers. And now, of course, we have AI, where teachers can use for whatever, write a letter to a parent from you or do this or that. There's also tools called like a parent square. It helps us enhance our communication to our families. There are different apps. We use the app, a car rider app. So when parents are pulling up, they can plug in their number, it pops up on the screen so you know how to send students out. So there's a variety of ways that technology enhances instruction. School leaders use it to manage our evaluation system. I think there is an app for everything. You sign up for your professional development, you log your hours, you submit your absence, you submit your time, you log over here to take attendance, you log over here to put your grades in, you log over here to see how they perform their reading. So I had to learn all these logins. And so now everything you just have to log in. And then Google Classroom is something that is also used where teachers can have platforms where students can submit their work. Canvas is also a platform for teachers to use. Seesaw is a two-way platform for parents. So if you want to create some type of video resource for students to use, they can watch it at home and get instruction at home. That's also helpful for parents who need to be retaught this math. Sometimes you're looking at the math, you're like, wait a minute, how did your teacher, show me this? And then the teacher can break it down so parents can actually see it. So technology is everywhere. It is everywhere, and we cannot escape it.
Yeah, I think technology is definitely better now than when I was in school. Matter of fact, we didn't have too much of technology anyway.
We had the Oregon Trail.
Right, and then we would get homework assignment, and it would say do what? Just do in a period. Like, okay, that's not helping me when I'm already stuck. Dr. Jacobs, I have a question for you. How has COVID-19 pandemic impacted the work of school counselor, and what strategies have been employed to support students during this time?
Well, the first thing that impacted them was the social. When they was at home, it was tough for them because a lot of them, all their friends are at school. And they were stuck at home with their parents. It was really tough for them. And we saw it when they came back. They was, so wanting to get with their friends and getting in more trouble because they were, but it also impacted them mentally. But, a lot of people had deaths in their family during COVID. And, it was tough for a lot of people during COVID. So it did impact a lot of people mentally. So we saw a lot of people need more mental help when they return to school. So it has gotten better. But when they first came back from COVID, yes, a lot of people had anxiety. And some people still have anxiety around COVID because we do still have students that come to school with a mask, even though it's not required. So some people still do have a lot of anxiety with it. Also, hard for them to focus too. COVID impacted that also, their focus. And of course, their academics. Some of them got really behind academically during COVID.
So how do they catch up once they're behind?
Well, we just continue, teaching the academics, and like Dr. Teller said, we use the data to support the needs. We look at the data and say, okay, this is what they need to work on, and that's what the teachers do. They have to reteach. So it was a lot of catching up when they came back.
I can understand that. And I have one more question for everyone. Dr. Tyler, you can start first. As a principal or a teacher, what was one of your greatest accomplishments that you feel made a difference, and why?
So when I think about accomplishments as an educator, I don't think about my accomplishments to measure my success. I think about the students and the community accomplishments. And at the end of the year, we do a wave out where the buses pull off and we wave to the students. And to see their faces of what they're going to miss and what we poured into them that entire school year, it just speaks volumes to the service of our why. Why do we show up every day for our children? And it's because they need us. It's more than just I'm coming to school every day. Some of them thrive on the relationships that they have with the educators in the building, the teachers who greet them every day, who know something personally about them, who know their interests, who can have a conversation, and who push them and really want them to grow. So last year as a teacher, my students cried. People could not understand why they did not want to leave out of the classroom. I had one, she was laughing and she just broke down crying. It was tears of joy, but it was also tears of knowing for the summer she was going to be away from the relationships that we have established. And so, my greatest accomplishment, I think back to when I was in New Jersey and I had a student come back and visit. And the student said, well, I think he was in college or something. And that tells you how many years I've been in it. He said something like, yeah, I'm still trying to be trustworthy. You taught me to be trustworthy. And he said, I remember that word. So it's sowing those seeds in students that you can look up and see where they are now. And they're remembering the core values that you've instilled to them of how to be genuinely good people and citizens. And because we are preparing our students for careers that we don't even know will exist. But it's that relationship piece that I will say that really brings you back every single day to the school system. So it's not an award, it's not an accomplishment. I mean, there's growth, there's academic growth. I worked in a school in a particular county where I went in and I kind of shifted the culture of the school. And it wasn't me. It wasn't about me. It was about us. It was about us together wanting to be better for one another and wanted to have standard of excellence for one another. And so it's just knowing that you're shaping lives, you're changing lives, you're molding the future, you're having an influence in your classroom on someone who's going to have an influence on someone else. So it's a trickle down effect. And so that's just what I'm most happy about, is that at the end of the day, when I lay my head down, I know that I'm giving back and that's my gift. And I am listening to the calling to continue to work in this field where many are walking away every day.
Excellent. Juria? Do you need me to repeat the question?
No, I had to unmute myself.
Oh.
Got this up and running now. Just to piggyback on Dr. Tyler, yes, it's not about me and what my accomplishment has been. It's seeing my students after graduation. So this will be my 7th graduation at the school, and seeing my students outside of the school coming up to me in their jobs. One of my, just recently, she graduated in, I think, 2 years ago, and now she's in police academy. She's in a police cadet. And I somehow was, I guess, Googling. I had to get the logo or something because I wanted to say that that's one of our partners. It's the Metropolitan Police Department. And up comes my student, is on the homepage, and her police. When I said, I just tears just started coming. So when you see your students not just surviving, but thriving outside of school, she decided not to go the college route. She decided to join the workforce, but she's doing very well for herself, especially being almost like the spokesperson for like the police academy. She even came up to when we had career day to tell the students about it, because of course, just working in the area that I work in, a lot of times the students are afraid of police. But when they see that one of their peers graduated, is thriving, is in the police academy, it changes the focus. So dropping those seeds, you can't save them all. At the same time, you're just hoping that you're dropping that knowledge. I know that for me, I ran away from education as many times as possible, and it kept coming back to me. It was like, you're going to do this, whether you want to or not, you're going to do this. And I just remember, I every day, I just remember even my experience in high school and teachers, even middle school and elementary school, that my teachers always went above and beyond to provide me those experiences that made me who I am today. And I just want to pass that on, just like Dr. Tyler said. I want to pass that on to, I want to provide those same experiences for my students so that one day that they will pass that on. So I think we're all in, we all, that's all we want to see. There's not one teacher, no matter, I tell the students all the time, there's not one teacher, administrator, person in this building that does not want to see you win. We want to see you win. We want to see you beat the system. We want to see you doing, despite whatever that was thrown at you, that you're really doing you're doing what you need to do and being successful at it.
That is very well true. Dr. Jacobs.
Yes, Dr. Tyler and Carter said it well. And that's so true. Building the relationships. Because I stay with my kids from 6th grade to 8th. So now my kids are getting ready to graduate, and I can just see how far they came with their behavior, how they used to be a big problem, but now they've changed and matured and doing better and using strategies that I work with them on and doing better academically. So it is the building relationships, and that's something I'm always talking to my teachers about, building this positive school environment in their classroom. And I've seen some success in students that I taught when I was an elementary teacher. I had a girl that was a big behavior problem and her cousin, and I used to tutor them, and I became real close to their family, and their family still contacts me now and say, oh, now I have the grandchild, like the girl has had a son and they want help with the son, and I'm Facebook friends with them. So, it's real nice to see how they have matured and come adults, and I'm still pouring into their
Excellent.
relationships. That's what's needed.
Exactly. But thank you all so much for joining Faithfully Committed Podcast. We definitely appreciate it. Until next time for another episode. What that's going to be, I don't know. But there will be another episode. You all have a great day. Bye-bye.